We're still in chapter 4, so today we're going to discuss what is accretion, what is alluvion, what is reliction, what is avulsion, what is accession rights. We're going to talk about the title closing. We're also going to discuss the difference between constructive notice and actual notice. So let's begin. So accession rights, as you can see here on the board, it's rights to all that the land produces. So basically, when you purchase property and there's a particular type of crops, right? You own those crops. In our earlier videos, when we talked about bundle of rights, we discussed how you own subsurface rights, provided that you haven't purchased a condo or co-op. If you purchase any other property other than a condo or co-op, you have air rights and subsurface rights, right, and water rights. We discussed that in some earlier videos. So accession rights is whatever's growing on your property, you can sell that. Harvest it, you can do whatever. Why? Because you own that. So when you purchase a property, let's say a previous owner has some crops there, let's say fruit trees, whatever they were growing, you own that. Why? Because you have accession rights. Accretion. Accretion has to deal with land buildup. And it says land buildup over sand, silt, or gravel. So this is where you have a property and maybe through storms, through Mother Nature, there's more sand and silt and gravel being pushed onto your property. That is what we call alluvion. Alluvion. So alluvion is when you have Mother Nature that's pushing more gravel, sand, or silt onto your property. Okay? The next one is reliction. Reliction has to do with the increase in land by the withdrawal of water. So again, as you are aware of, right, we're going through climate change. So with climate change, it's possible that you're gonna have a property that would increase in land by the withdrawal of water, right? Because of the fact that in some parts of the world, they're receiving less and less rain. So reliction has to deal with now you're getting more land. So you purchase a property that's near the water, right? And your land is increasing because the lake is drying up. So you're increasing in land mass. That is called reliction. Now, avulsion, not to be confused with alluvion, avulsion has to deal with loss of land by the water course washing it away. So this is a scenario where maybe you have beachfront property, but as the tide keeps coming in to your property, it's washing away the land. That is called avulsion, loss of land by the water course washing it away. Now let's discuss title closing. This is where you want to get to. Everybody wants to get to title closing. Why? Because at this point, this is where you've done your final walkthrough on the property. Just to give you guys a reminder what a final walkthrough is that after your buyer has placed an offer, that offer was accepted, now you're just waiting for a title search of all the different liens on the property. Some earlier videos, we talked about the different types of specific liens that could be attached to the property. Once all that's clear, we get to title closing. So this is the moment where everybody can't wait because this is where the checks come out, right? So the seller is going to receive a check, seller's agent. And if you guys can remember, we also call the seller's agent a listing agent and the buyer's agent. So these three individuals are receiving a check. The seller is the one that's selling the property. They are paying, the seller is paying the commissions of both, okay? So they're paying the commissions. So basically, the buyer is receiving free service from you as a buyer's agent. or AKA sales agent. So title closing, we're all excited. Now, in the state of New York City, which we call downstate, other individuals that's going to get a check is going to be the seller's attorney and the buyer's attorney. So as you can see, everybody can't wait till we get to title closing because everybody's getting paid, right? Now, you see that the seller is receiving a check. What is the buyer going to get? Well, you already know. The buyer is going to finally get keys and possibly a deed if they're not purchasing a co-op. So this is what they're going to get. This is what they're looking for. The deed is proof of ownership. But all the rest of us here, buyer's attorney, seller's attorney, buyer's agent, seller's agent, seller, we're excited because we're all going to get paid. Now, unlike with the commission, the seller's attorney, they're going to be paid by the seller. That's going to be part of the seller's closing costs. The buyer's attorney, same principle. They're going to get paid by their buyer, who's their client. And that's going to be part of their closing cost. So title closing, again, for New York City, because the rest of the country, you probably have escrow that's going to be involved. The escrow company is the in-between, the intermediary between the buyer and seller to make sure they act as a third party to make sure that both sides are completing their task, holding each accountable. So here in New York City, we're all excited. Typically at a closing, you'll have both attorneys show up. You'll have both agents show up. The seller doesn't necessarily have to be there. Same thing with the buyer. They don't have to be there. But for the most part, at least these four individuals are going to be there. Seller's attorney, right? Because the seller attorney and seller's agent, they're there on behalf of the seller. So that's the reason why the seller is not a necessity for the seller to be there. And then same principle with buyer's agent and buyer's attorney. They're there on their behalf. So there's no need for them to be there because they're paying for legal representation. Now, you might be thinking, well, how much of these attorneys are going to be paid by the seller and by the buyer? Typically, their cost is going to be between $2,000 to $2,500. So the seller is going to have closing costs that's going to include this amount to cover their attorney. So that's title closing. Again, this is the part where we all get excited because we know that we're about to go to the bank, right? So that's title closing. Let me know if you have any questions, just leave that in the comments. Survey, so if you guys can remember when we talked about encroachment, has to deal with the boundary lines of your property. So when you purchase property, let's say this is your house, you have boundary lines. So what the survey is going to do is it's a professional measurement, so to speak, of your boundary lines. So that way when you purchase property, you know where your property starts and where it ends. So that's survey, okay? So that's easy for you to get on the exam. Then we have what is called constructive notice. Now, with constructive notice, okay, and actual notice, these are two different ways that you can record title. So that's what I want you to think about with these two, okay? So here, you're trying to record title, meaning you just purchased a property. You want to make sure that if somebody goes onto the internet, they know that you own that property. So legally, a seller does not need to hire a seller's attorney or even a seller's agent. They can sell the property on their own. If they choose to sell it on their own and nothing's being recorded, that is what is called actual notice. So I have a copy of the deed. When we talked about the deed, have a copy of the deed. I meet with someone, let's say in a restaurant, they write me a check, give me a cashier's check or give me cash. I give them a copy of the deed. And in doing so, I just completed actual notice. So the only individuals that know that this property was sold is myself and the buyer. So if you would look up the property on, well, for New York, it's called Accretion. This is the system where it gives you public information on ownership. That is actual notice. Constructive notice means that the county, there's a county record. So for your exam, the definition that they're looking for constructive notice is that the world is bound by the knowledge. How? Anyone that has an internet connection can look up a particular address, 123 Park Avenue. They can look up the address to find out who's the owner of the property. So that's what's called constructive notice. The world is bound. So when the seller decided to sell their property, if they're using a seller's agent and an attorney, it's going to be a constructive notice. I would say 99.9% of the properties that's sold is going to be constructive notice. You want it recorded with the county. So that way, and it's protection, right? Because with actual notice, yes, I give somebody a copy of the deed, but what's to say that I didn't meet with someone at another restaurant an hour before and also gave them a copy of my deed? I could pull a scam on someone, especially if the first person that got a copy of the deed does not immediately go down to the county office and have it recorded. So that's constructive notice. The world is bound. How is the world bound? Because it's online. It's online, right? For New York City, it's going to be Accretion. Accretion has all the records of the 5 boroughs properties. Again, any questions on this, you can just leave it in the comments. And just remember for your exam, actual notice is just personal, one-on-one meeting between the buyer, between the seller. They exchange the funds, so they don't have all these other individuals involved. I hope you guys learned something today. Thanks for joining us again. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Stay safe.
Thanks again for coming to our channel. We look forward to continuing to help you and guide you through your real estate book. We are currently doing a New York real estate sales book, but later on we will follow with California sales book, Florida sales book, as well as New Jersey sales book. So look forward to those videos. One of the other things that we want to also discuss in the channel is investment, because most real estate professionals out there, they never get to learn about investment at their firm. So we want to talk about foreclosures, what type of properties you should buy. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share the video so that you'll be notified when we drop those videos. We're trying to drop at least a minimum of 3 videos per week, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Thank you.